All right. Anne-Marie and I were very fortunate to be part of the James Madison Fellowship over the last few years. And I heard about this one, like everybody else does through Great PD from word of mouth. And there's one individual chosen from each state for the $24,000 that go with the fellowship funds for that second or that first master's, or in some cases, a second one. And I put in for it, having no desire or no real thinking that I would be able to get it. And I was very fortunate enough to do so. And I want to talk a little bit about what that was today. For those of you who are looking to apply for it, I want to talk about some of the ways that can kind of help you with that application process, and then our experiences that we have with it as well. It has been something that has been extremely helpful for me as a professional. And like my little intro I have here is going to say, it's the best PD that I've ever had. I'm going to walk through a little bit with this, so what we'll discuss today. And then I very much want to get some questions, some comments regarding those individuals that are involved, so that we can, help get the next fellow from Michigan moving forward. We're going to talk a little bit about what the Madison Fellowship is, a little bit of the application process, the graduate programs that are involved with it, and Anne-Marie's and I's experiences in those graduate programs. The Georgetown residency experience as well, that month that you spent on campus at Georgetown University. The teaching obligation that goes with this, some of our personal experiences from Anne-Marie and myself and any other past fellows that I was hoping would show up for today, and then any questions or comments that may come up that we can help individuals that they can go through this. A little bit here about what it is. This is a federal thing. This is not a regular grant. The funding is toward an MA in a specific degree that allows educators to teach courses that include the U.S. Constitution. So these are our 712 Gov, 712 U.S. history teachers. So world history doesn't work for the obligation for this one. Neither does econ. And this is paid off through the teaching of courses connected to the Constitution. So for each course, for each year of courses that you take, whether it's at U of M Flint or at Ashland or wherever it may be, the fellowship requires that you teach courses on the Constitution at the secondary level, and that's 612. Both Anne-Marie and I teach high school, but there was a number of fellows that when I was there that were middle school teachers as well. And so that is definitely something that if you're a middle school teacher, put in for it, because you'll not be by yourselves with that. The application process is, well, it's got some depth to it. So it's not something that you're going to want to do overnight, although March 1st is a deadline for this year. And so you could do it. You could do it this year as well. The deadline is not quite here, but I encourage you, and I'm sure Anne-Marie will agree, that you want to include anything and everything possible on there, because they have a group of individuals that sit down and they sift through applications from all 50 states. We usually have a fellow from Cuba as well. And some of the outlying territories. So this is something that include everything you possibly can, because there's going to be some outstanding applicants in here. A little bit about the application process. As we said, the foundation generally selects based on funding, one fellow from each state, the District of Columbia and our U.S. territories, Puerto Rico, now Pacific as well. If you're a teacher, you're a senior fellow. They also have junior fellows for folks that are not quite in the teaching profession yet, but the senior fellows are experienced secondary school teachers of U.S. and Gov. And this is for part-time graduate study during summers is where I did mine, as well as in the evenings through online live classes, towards a master's degree. And even if you have one already, you can do this for a second one. This was my second one that I'm getting, but the content knowledge that you get out of this is very, very different than the ed ones that folks usually get for their first master's. Senior fellows are eligible for up to 5 calendar years for a maximum of $24,000. And graduate school is crazy expensive right now. Grand Valley, I don't think you can take a class for under $2,100. And that's just Grand Valley, little Division II state school. So this $24,000 is extremely helpful. It's the only reason I could have been able to do this. These are the current faculty that you're going to work with at the Georgetown Experience. Jeffrey Morrison, this is the individual here in the upper left. He's the head of the program, and he has some Michigan connections. His wife's from Gaylord. So, I mean, I remember we were at, I think we were at Monticello when he found me and he stopped me and he talked to me where I was from. And I said, I was from Buckley. And I'm like, well, you probably don't know where that is. And he's like, well, I do. My wife's from the area and everything. So that was really cool to see. I mean, the guy knows everything about everything. He's just an amazing, amazing individual, as are the rest of these individuals. Dreisbach, Hardwick, Helper, and they're just extremely knowledgeable, extremely personable. They make the experience fun because you're in with a bunch of nerds already, like yourself, and then you got four of like the ultimate nerds when it comes to this. I mean, it's just the greatest professional development that I've ever been a part of.
It's kind of fun because Brian, I don't know if you remember, but at the sessions, they always give wonderful lectures and then we discuss them and stuff, but you always clap at the end of their lecture. So we were trying to do that back at my high school after I was done giving my talk.
Sure.
It was, making the kids clap for me, but it didn't stay.
It doesn't stick real well, right? They're just not enthused like we were. But it's true. I mean, you hear some things and it's stuff that you can take with you back to the classroom. And it's just amazing how they just can come off the cuff like they do. And, I had good experiences from my undergrad at Aquinas and my first grad at Grand Valley, but I mean, these people are next level.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, it's your content and you just fall in love with it. Like I did an ed first master's and with an emphasis in history, and I loved my history classes, and the eds were fine, but this is just, yeah, you're diving in and you're loving everything. So
yeah. I mean, it's Constitutional Foundations is the course that you'll take at Georgetown, and I mean they get all the way into it. Yeah, there it is. You want to talk, Anne Marie, about that, about the books and the course packet? You want to go through that stuff?
Well, yeah, they when you first get there, they give you all kinds of books. So you have in fact, they tell you that you might want to ship them home because you get all kinds of, Gordon Wood is the first book you have to read before you get to DC. Yep. And then, you get your pocket constitution and whatnot, the notes of the debates. So you're reading a ton of that. I mean, you read all of it. And and you write 3 papers while you're there, and it's pretty hardcore, the papers and whatnot that you do. But so it's a month while you're there, but you are working like nonstop. You have like discussion groups. You have all kinds of. You meet every day. You go to a lecture, and then they go to breakout rooms for the small conference, talking, question and answer and that kind of stuff with each of the profs, and you rotate within each of the profs. And then one prof is assigned to you to grade your work and whatnot and give you feedback. And so I really felt like, I was in a very, strong graduate class, and it was amazing. Just even my writing improved during this time period. But they all have their own little quirks about them, which is kind of fun.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And then you do a lot of field trips while you're there as well. So, you visiting George Washington's home, Thomas Jefferson, Madison's we went to as well. We went to, oh my gosh, we saw Jeffrey Rosen, all of that. So, I mean, they do a great job of mixing the academic with also, seeing historical things too. So that was awesome.
Absolutely. And that's, that is that Georgetown experience that Anne Marie is talking about. And if you've never been to Georgetown, it's, and you see these things in pop culture and in media all the time on television shows. And it is all that. It's every bit of it, the atmosphere that you get when you're there, and you live right on campus. You walk, I don't know, 1,000 feet, 500 feet to this building here for all your courses. and you get the key card. It's like you're an undergrad again a little bit with everything, with your meal plans and everything. But you get to be here. But instead of skipping class, you want to get there early because that's just the atmosphere that's created by it. It is a 4-week mandatory Georgetown program, and was also the quickest 4 weeks of my life. I got 2 young girls at home, and I missed them, but like it was different. I mean, I sent them postcards and everything from what I did, and thankfully they kept those. But you're live at Georgetown for those 4 weeks, and it's a 6-credit course that you take on constitutional foundations, and they transfer. So whether it's U of M Flint or Ashland or wherever it may be, that's going to transfer. So in terms of programming, that's a decent chunk right there that you get in that 4-week time. Like Anne Marie said, field trips are a huge part of this. We spent a day at the White House. We went to the Supreme Court. Brett Kavanaugh was the individual that we listened to. Anne Marie, who did you guys have?
We had Roberts.
Yeah, Roberts. Okay.
Who said he wanted to be a history teacher, actually, to begin with, and then went into law.
Yeah, Kavanaugh said the same thing. He wanted to be a basketball coach and a history teacher because one of the stories that this was just after his confirmation, so we were kind of curious about how he was going to be, and his little quirk that he has with his with his nose afterwards. That's real. He did that in real life too. But he talks about the basketball court that's right above the Supreme Court, where he has his practice and everything, which I thought was interesting. Went to the Capitol, and the really interesting part about this is too, when you have the Madison Fellowship label, when you schedule your appointments to go see your senators, your congressmen, they're going to want to see you and get a picture with you. And I was able to see both of our senators, Debbie Stabenow, Gary Peters, Bill Huizenga for West Michigan, and which was fantastic. Went to the African American History Museum, like Anne Marie said, Mount Vernon, Monticello, Montpelier, and a number of other places. Went down to Arlington, and then you have time too. They give you a card so that you can travel, and so we were down at the mall all the time. We went to Tombs, a little bit of a local establishment, on a pretty regular basis as well, which was a lot of fun. But you get people that, I mean, you meet people quickly and you become fast friends, and you spend time with these people. And I text people still from this on a regular basis that I'm close with from all different parts of the nation, it's a huge part of that as well, because you're meeting people that are going through the same trials and tribulations that you are. Like, I'm teaching Gov in the auditorium this year, and that's just tough. And I have other teachers that are doing very, very similar things as well. So to be able to kind of bounce ideas off each other for that is just absolutely fantastic. Like Anne Marie said, you're getting guest speakers from leading academic scholars on the Constitution and history. These are the deep dive people. These are the people that when you play videos that you have been playing for years for your classes, you're like, wait a minute, I know that guy, I know that girl, I listened to her. And so it's really great to make those kind of connections.
One of my favorite things too at the Georgetown Experience, because you're with a group of poli-sci geeks, trivia night.
Yes.
Awesome at Tombs.
That's exactly right.
We got to be competitive.
we that was I think that was Tuesdays, I think, when we went down there. Yeah, we made the trip down one of the lettered streets and did our thing. It was a great experience. Anne Marie talked about the graduate programs, and I'm going to have her talk a little bit about U of M Flint here in a second, and I'll talk about Ashland afterwards. But fellowship recipients can attend any accredited university in the U.S. with a master's degree program that offer courses or training that emphasize the origins, principles, and development of the Constitution. So sometimes you can work with programs for these things. Sometimes you have schools that already have that, and like they are the I guess the pipeline for fellows like this. 50% of all the 2018 fellows for my group went to Ashland University in Ohio. And there you get programming that fits with this just as it's intended. Anne Marie, do you want to talk a little bit about U of M Flint and your graduate program?
Yeah, I chose not to do the Ashland Experience. Being in Northern Michigan, it just, I decided I was going to do online. And so I talked through U of M Flint, and they were very happy to make all of my classes be online. And then, of course, COVID hit, and so everybody's was online.
Right.
But they're very good at recording. If it was an in-class thing, they would record and then send me, or I could connect to their classrooms that way. But yeah, they accepted the 6 credits from the Georgetown summer 6 credits. And then what they do worry about with the James Madison Fellowship is the thesis. If you're going to do a thesis, they're a little nervous about that because sometimes it takes quite some time to get it finished, and they want to make sure that you can get it finished. But I did. That's one thing that the U of M requires, is a thesis rather than anything else. So I was able, actually, I finished my degree this August 2020. So that was wonderful for a second master's. And I wrote on, actually, I call it a sibling rivalry. Where are we going to go with the religious liberty and the Enlightenment values? And so that was wonderful to really dive into that. It started in Georgetown, and then I just kept digging more and more and more, and actually was writing it while I was taking my other classes too,
Awesome.
so I could get it done. But yeah, so that was a wonderful thing. So yeah, great. That you have to make sure that they pre-approve what you're going to take at the university. So you have to get your plan of study pre-approved, and then you follow that plan of study. And if there's any changes, they have to okay those changes.
Right.
But yeah, so that works really, really well. So you know that what you're taking is meeting their requirements and whatnot. So again, they're based around the Constitution, and so that worked really well.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say one last thing. They also, you once you go ahead, and the way that they do it is you register and then you send those documents to the Madison Fellowship, and then they go ahead and they'll reimburse your tuition as you're going through with it. So it is a really great program.
It is. Yeah. To be able to get those funds ahead of time and then to be able to send those in. So, I mean, it's nothing out of your pocket. I mean, they pay for books. They pay for everything up to that 24,000. And I know Ashland, with everything, they make sure that they keep that under 24,000 so that they can, advertise the fact that, yes, you can do your entire master's here completely free. So there's nothing out of pocket. I coach basketball and softball, so I'm not graduating until this December. So I took online live classes in the fall and did one in the spring. So it would be 3 hours, one night a week, for however many weeks it was necessary for it. And these are 2 credit classes at Ashland. So this summer I'll be going down there, and I'll stay there, and I'm taking you always take a great American texts, sometimes it's the Federalist Papers. In this case, I'm doing this on the works of Dr. King. So for the live portion, I'll be at Ashland for 1 week, and we have class from 9 to 5. And we're there except for lunch pretty much that whole time. But you can knock out 2 credits in a week. And I'll be down there for 3 weeks, so I'll get 6 credits. I'm also taking post-war America, 1945 to 1973, and then the American presidency, Johnson to the present. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that, yes, when you go through Ashland, the entire master's was free. Mine at U of M, I think out of my pocket was maybe $2 or $3 grand, and that was it.
Okay.
Like it was pretty close to the 24 as well.
Yes, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And with this too, like I'll be on campus for those 3 weeks, and again, everything is paid for. And then I'm doing a capstone this fall, so I'll be able to get that finished. I'm going to be working through the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum, where I'm a docent at, to finish that up. So I'm looking forward to that one, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to do some community college stuff because of it. And I know that I'll have the background knowledge. I've already taught APUSH for a number of years, that you add this to it. And again, that's the content knowledge that you really get in comparison to other master's degrees, especially in ed level. That's I guess that's the difference when it comes to it, is that content knowledge that you get is just so much better in terms of dealing with your high school students, and then it prepares you to be able to teach at that CC level as well.
I'd agree. And I think the route I'd like to take is writing public policy and actually
Yeah.
going that route, like some kind of think tank, because I fell in love with the research and diving in and doing that. So I just wanted to kind of continue in that vein when I'm done with my teaching.
Yeah. And there's a number of the fellows too that, you know, want to work in government when it comes to those things. And so they would do some congressional time with those. That is something that this degree will very much prep you for and kind of be a great little bonus on your resume for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to interject, but so your experience with working with these different universities is they've been pretty accommodating. That's great to hear, because honestly, because I started my master's in history and could never get classes, you know, when I needed them, you know, in order to be able to do it. That's what I wanted to do it in. The only thing that I could find that accommodated teaching or having a full-time job was getting my master's is educational technology,
right,
because they catered to the education crowd. So it's good to hear that they're a little bit, accommodating in this case.
Yeah. And I think when a program knows that there's $24,000 that they're guaranteed, at least for this, that they're going to do what they can, because, you know, they're not going to worry about default or whatever it may be. And that they're getting individuals who are going to go through the program and are not going to be someone who aren't going to get it done in a certain period of time. And they're going to finish. I think that kind of, you know, adds to that accommodation factor a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think that when you're a fellow, it does. It kind of allows you to have a little bit more, I don't know, people just kind of respect that a little bit. And they know that
Right.
you're serious. And so it kind of labels you as a good student that they're going to want to work with. So
Right.
at least
Right.
that's what I found.
Yeah. Yeah. And with Ashland Ford, I mean, they really are, they actively try to get each year as many as they can with it. And they've been, and having 2 credit classes means you can really focus on what you want to do. So like teaching AP US and, you know, teaching Gov, we don't have AP Gov yet, but I'm working on it. You can really get courses that are fitting for it, and just content knowledge wise, that's going to set you apart from anybody else in your building for the most part. In terms of the teaching obligation, all Madison Fellows must agree to teach full-time in secondary schools for at least 1 year for each year of assistance. So, and if you don't, then you have to pay your money back. So that's something that you really want to think about. Like, for instance, I interviewed last year at Montcalm Community College for a full-time job. I did not get it. Had I gotten it, I would have had to pay this back. Because it's a 612 teaching obligation. So CC doesn't work for it. And each year you have to send in your paperwork. I just did that this week, actually, that says, here's my teaching obligation. This is how many sections I teach that teach the Constitution. Again, whether either it's US history or Gov, signed by the principal. And, you know, that's something that they need every year, along with the courses that you've taken. They ask for the transcripts for it. And they ask for you to give a little bit of a description of the highlights of your year. And those are things, they don't take very long, but the foundation very much wants to make sure that everybody's following the policy with that. The foundation strongly encourages fellows to return to their home state to teach. I know for the most part, the group that I went through with in 2018 has done that with a couple of exceptions. But it is, you want to, you get this knowledge and you want to go back to the classroom, because I feel like you're so much more prepared to go through content, especially in a crazy year like what we just had teaching government. It's just something that, so like 8th grade US history, that fits. Answer the chat question. 8th grade US history fits. Ninth, usually it's 9th, 10th, or 11th for US history, or Gov. Those are the ones that you have to do it for. So if you teach world for a majority of your classes, it won't work, because you have to have at least half of your sections connected to a course that teaches the Constitution.
So, sorry to interrupt.
No, go for it.
How do you guarantee that? Because I have no say in what I teach.
Yeah, neither do we. Hopefully your administration is going to recognize that you went through this and that you're the most qualified for it. Now, do I think that they're going to give you some exceptions if you're like, hey, I got a principal, he says I'm teaching this. Are they going to work with you? I would assume that they would if it's not your fault. But again, I don't know. I'm not real sure how that would work out when it comes to funds. Maybe they would, push that obligation back a little bit with the hope that eventually you would be able to do X amount of years for the X amount of years that you received funds from. But yeah, I think with the way things are now, we're all in the same boat when it comes to, we're kind of at the mercy of where admin wants to put people.
Right. How long did it take you to finish? Like, how many years did it take you to finish?
Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
Okay. Well, it took me 2. I took classes basically year round, and wrote my thesis and finished in August. So I have 2 years that I have as an obligation that I have to teach, which again, I'm AP Gov, I'm regular government, and sometimes US history. So I fill in that. But I also talked to my principal prior to doing this. So
Right.
my principal understood that this is what I want. It's making me more valuable to our students. I'm better preparing them for college level type, learning about the Constitution. And so having had that conversation and saying, this is what my goals and my plan for my future and for our school district, it's a big deal. But if you get it, your principal should work with you on that. The school then gets to say they have a James Madison fellow on staff, and that's a big thing. And so I would say that I kind of push back with my principal in a polite way and just say, hey, I'd like to do this, and so but this is what I need from you to be able to do it. Can I count on you?
Thanks.
That's exactly right. And it took me 3 because I coach. And so doing those online live classes, it's too much. You can't be at 2 places at once too many times before it causes problems. So I would do summer stuff. You don't get a summer. I did not get a summer last summer. I did not get a summer this summer. I'm not going to have one just because I'll be prepping once basketball's over and before softball starts. I'll be able to do my reading for those things, and then when I go down there, that's 3 weeks. That's just reality. Reading question here. I'll be likely to be teaching civics, econ, and a law elective class in the future. Will they be willing to meeting the requirement or no? Yeah, Anne-Marie, I agree with you. I think it would be. As long as you're not just teaching one section of civics and one section of law, and you're teaching 4 sections of econ, because they want 50% of your course load to be Constitution connected.
Yeah.
Does Ashland have is it a capstone or a thesis, or?
They have all those options. They have, their capstone is you can do a thesis, and I'm still kicking around if I want to do the project or not, or if I want to, because I'm thinking about maybe getting an EDD, and so if I do, then I want to go get my thesis. But if I don't, then I should probably just do, the project, and I got my window of deciding is diminishing quickly here, and I need to figure out what in the world I'm going to do. But yeah, they have all those options with it. And again, because they work with fellows so much, they have the forms already set up that are ready to go. And they take 2 minutes to fill out in terms of, your plan of schedule, as well as, your funding request for it. So, and they know the individuals, at the fellowship, so they discuss all those times if there's a snafu when it comes to issues. But again, with everything paid for for tuition, room and board, books, you're allowed up to $100 per class for books, and I've never had an issue when it comes to stuff going over for that. What else? Anything else? Questions, comments? thoughts on this? I know that other fellows have gone to other schools for programming. If you live, like near a university, if you got this, I think that you could go to someone and be like, all right, hey, here's my situation. I have $24,000 in funding. Can we put together a program where I can fulfill the requirements for it, and stay under this, or at least close to it? I think that you'd be able to get people that would work with you. I thought about doing it through Grand Valley, but they just didn't have the poli-sci portion of it that would have fit.
Mhm. I wanted to mention too about applying. If you have, like when I applied, I had two former fellows that were my recommendations. They were recommended me, and that helped tremendously. Some people, it takes 2 or 3 tries to go ahead and earn the or be awarded the fellowship. I was lucky, I think, with those two individuals who recommended me, because I got in I got in my first shot, which was
Right.
really pretty cool. So the other thing I would recommend with your application is, be really personable. Like I was almost in a, talking to them through the answering the questions, because the questions are pretty detailed. And
Yeah.
so just talking about how, yes, this is my second go around. I'm excited about, but I really put a lot of like personality into my application. And then also the 2 James Madison Fellow recommendations, I think really kind of cinched it for me, because they know what you need to be able to do. And so if they're recommending you for that, that's awesome. They
Right.
can come with it.
That's exactly right, because you can't get away with not reading the material. You might have been able to do that as an undergrad, for this class or that class, but you're going to deep dive into this. And even when you do read the material and you think you have a decent grasp of it, they're going to challenge you when it comes to it significantly, especially in the small group setting that you're going to have at Georgetown. So it is definitely not for the faint of heart when it comes to that experience with it, which is good. You want to be challenged. You very much want to be pushed when it comes to those things, because especially when you're teaching gov in a year like this, I mean, you're going to have to know your stuff backward and forward. And again, content wise, you're not going to find anything better when it comes to that 4 weeks that you have there. And then depending on the program that you're able to get into, you're really going to get into the weeds on a lot of different things that are going to translate directly to what you're doing the next day in school with your high schoolers or middle schoolers. And it's been fantastic.
Well, Professor Dreisbach. He's a Federalist Society guy.
Right.
And so he is, I think the token very conservative prof, and then you have more liberal ones too. And I still remember during our small group, he's like, why do we even need a U.S. Supreme Court? And I'm like, pardon? But we were kind of going at it. I'm like, how about uniformity of law, perhaps? But
Sure.
he was really making strong arguments. In fact, he's writing now about how Thomas Jefferson really didn't mean for the wall of separation to be applied to, the national government, to the states. He just meant that states couldn't do it to the citizens of the state. And so getting into like this is
Right.
religious liberty. This is the next big argument on the national stage. And we're having deep discussions about this. And he's looked at as someone to go to fight on behalf of religious liberty. So it's fascinating to be a part of all that.
And they're not bringing their politics in. I mean, he could just as well fight the opposite argument extremely well, because that's what these guys are.
Yeah.
All 4 of them. And then you get fellows in there too that are from, deep South states, or, from very, very red, and then some areas that are very, very blue. And so you have these discussions, and, everybody is a professional. I didn't run into anybody that was like, some partisan hack that was just trying to put their decision forth. People listen. And it was fantastic just to hear different point of views on things, whether you're in a small group, whether you're in the big lecture hall, or whether you're, that night at Tombs or trivia night or whatever it may be, because those things are constantly going on. And it's just, it was a lot of fun.
Mhm. Yeah, the way we used to talk politics way back in the
Correct.
day with the 3 nightly TV shows and people could actually have good discussions rather than shout show.
Correct.
That's what it is. And you learn as much from each other as you do from your books.
Yeah, because the age ranges of individuals at this place, we had a young lady who had got her, she was a junior fellow. She had got her undergrad recently. And then we had a guy who was he was in his 60s from Hawaii. And we all are in this same room together talking about these things of, every all different persuasions. It was just, you don't get it anywhere else. You can't. There's also, and I contacted the fellowship, and they wanted me to talk a little bit about the Frederick Douglass James Madison Fellowship. They're very much looking for individuals that are African American, Latinos, women. They're trying to really get out there when it comes to just having as many different folks as possible when it comes to it. And they wanted me to stress, if you know of anybody at all that is qualified, that you think would be good for it, push them to apply, help individuals apply, so that we can get as many qualified people in our schools in Michigan as possible that can benefit from these programs. What else are we missing, Anne Marie?
I'm trying to think. I don't know. They have the gym. You do when you're at Georgetown. It's really kind of fun because you are in a dorm.
Right.
You share a bathroom with a partner, but you have separate rooms. But I mean, you use the gym. It's really kind of fun getting away and doing that as well. But yeah, I can't think of anything.
Me neither. It's just, if you have anybody else has any questions, you can get a hold of either of us. And I'm hoping that once we go live, hopefully 2022 in Lansing, that we can get our group of individuals together from all the past years that have gone through this since the mid 90s is when this really started up. For those of us that are still available, so that we can talk to individuals who are applying for it and kind of help them out so that they can go through this whole process. I think that's all I have, Anne Marie.
Yeah. Do you have any questions about applying? I mean, I know the received by March 1st is kind of right around the corner, but as teachers, we're used to things like that.
Right.
So if you have any questions, or if, I'd be happy to recommend you guys if you're interested in, having former fellows recommend you. You can always throw my name out there. But again, it is a lot of work, but it's a labor of love, I would argue. So,
Right.
I guess my email is really simple. It's A Conway, and raider@raider.net. So it's RAYDER.net, and you can contact me, and I'd be happy to, like I said, recommend you or whatever.
Would you mind repeating that last one?
Sure. It's A Conway, CONWAY, at Raider, RAYDER.net.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And you can, if you have any questions for me, you can just go through the MCC, the Michigan Council for the Social Studies website. You'll find me in there.
How many recommenders or recommendations do you need?
I believe it's 2.
Yeah, I thought it was 2 as
bad.
well, I should say.
Yeah, and in terms of like for this year, that's what's going to hold you back in terms of being able to get this in by the deadline. So if you want to do this by March 1st, I think the recommender deadline is the 8th to have those letters in, but the sooner the better with that, because they're going to be, especially with people being home and online more, I assume they're going to get more people that are going to apply for this.
Well, and they took last summer off,
Right.
so they're doing a double.
Right.
Session.
Yeah, I would hate to have to deal with the logistics of that one.
Mhm.
Anything else, guys, before we log you off and get you going on your Saturday?
No, thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thank you guys for coming in. Thank you, Anne Marie, for
Yeah, well,
working with
thanks
us.
for setting this up.
That was fun. And hopefully next year we can, we can sit down and have a little discussion with everybody together somewhere.
Yeah, that would be lovely.